What's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another edition of What's Spinning. This time we're going to talk about some of the releases that have come out. Most of these over the last 5 or 6 months. I think one of them was a little prior to that. But I just wanted to talk about some of the albums from this year, the hard rock and heavy metal albums that just didn't make my list of the top 15 or top 20, however many I showed. A couple of these are really good. A couple of them I didn't like so much. So let's kind of jump in. But these were all, just about all of these were albums that were pretty highly anticipated by members of the VC. So I wanted to just kind of cover them real quick. Let me start by, I don't even know if you can hear what's playing in the background. I've got the music pretty low. But this is Written in the Sand by the Michael Schenker Group. This is from 1996, and this was self-released by Michael Schenker Records. If I remember correctly, that was VCLT from Scott. Can't quite remember, but I'm giving that a spin today. So let's just kind of jump in and get started. Let's see, where should we start? Let's go ahead and start with this one. Scott and I, funny enough, I mentioned him. We're just talking about this one. He really liked this one. He put it on his list of the top 20, I believe, albums of the year. And I had a complete opposite reaction to this album. It was one that I didn't know was coming out. And when I ran across it in the store, I grabbed it immediately. It's a band that I've liked since the 80s. So I was kind of excited to hear what they were doing. I mean, they only have a handful of albums during that time. They've been around since, I believe, 83. And I think they have 5 or 6 albums total. It's not that many. And I think that's including their first EP. So, but this is Win Hands Down from Armored Saint. So I don't think this is a bad album. I also don't think it's a great album. It's just kind of, it's good, good heavy metal. The reason I don't think it, or the reason I have an issue with it is there's really no high points in this entire CD for me, you know. Most albums have, 2 or 3 really good songs, 2 or 3 really high points that make you want to go back and listen. And honestly, I didn't get this from this album, and I gave it a few spins too, just to make sure. I listened to it and I wasn't really feeling it, which happens, you know. There's albums that I heard the first time and absolutely hated, and I gave them a spin a couple months later, and they've turned out to be favorites of mine. So I gave this a spin, wasn't really feeling it, so I put it aside for a couple of weeks, and I came back to it, and I listened to it 2 or 3 more times, and honestly, I still just wasn't feeling it. It just doesn't do much for me. Like I said, it's good, solid, heavy metal. I can't point to any songs or any part of the album and say that it's bad. Like I said, it just doesn't have those high points that you look for in a record. There were no songs on here that really stood out to me. And by probably the 4th time I listened to it, it really did just kind of turn into background noise. I was... it was just background music in the car. I wasn't even paying attention to it. So, check it out. If you've heard it, tell me what you think. But Armored Saint. Next up, this one, I knew it was coming out. It was an album that I went back and forth on whether I wanted it or not. This is a band that's been around since, I believe, 92 or 93 was their first album. They've always had a style that was very much their own. And it's a band that I've always liked. And the problem is they're one of those bands that after, 6 or 7 albums, their stuff really starts to sound the same. I really liked their last album, but I wasn't sure what to expect of this one. And this is Genexus from Fear Factory. And this is the really nice artwork, which, most of their albums are. The reason I really liked the last one because Gene Hoglan was on drums, and he kind of brought a new element to it. This one, I don't even know who is on drums. The band's had some lineup issues over the last few years, and it's weird because it only shows Burton Bell and Dino Cazares in the book. It doesn't list anybody else, so I don't know who else is there. But you whatever. And when I gave it the first spin, I dug it. I gave it a second spin, I dug it a little bit more. It's really the second half of the album that stood out to me. Regenerate, Church of Execution, Expiration Date, I love those songs. Regenerate and Expiration Date especially. I've always loved when they take their very industrial sound and kind of mix an 80s spin to it. What I mean by that, they did that remake of Cars, which was a really cool remake. There's little elements of that in a couple of the songs on here that I really like. But then, they've still got a number of songs with their real heavy hitting, just that Fear Factory sound. So I did really end up liking this. I actually found this copy in a UCD store for like $2.99, like a week after it came out. I was blown away. Actually, one of the other ones I found the same day for $2.99. Both of them, it was like the week after they came out, so I grabbed them as quick as I could. This one I ended up just getting on vinyl about a month ago. I'll probably show it in my next metal update. It was on sale on Nuclear Blast's website for a really good price, so I grabbed it. So if you like Fear Factory, this is really a good one to check out. And my introduction to Fear Factory was, oddly enough, I saw them live. I had never heard of them before. It was the Demanufacture tour, and they opened, followed by Korn, Flotsam and Jetsam, and Megadeth. Amazing show. All four bands just knocked it out of the park. This had to be early '95, I want to say. And I've just kind of dug them ever since. Let's see. Next up, this one. I went back and forth. I was walking around the store. I bought this one new. I was walking around the store. I had it in my hand. I actually put it back. I grabbed it again, and as I was reining it up, I almost put it back again. But I went ahead and bought it. It's Immortalized from Disturbed. This is the deluxe edition with the 3 bonus tracks. I like the first 4 or 5 songs on here, and then everything just started to sound the same after that. Immortalized and the Vengeful One are the 2 that were on there, the single that was released, and I kind of bought this on the weight of those 2 songs. And like I said, it's a so-so album. If you find it used, grab it. If you're a huge Disturbed fan and you just like that sound, grab it. But really nothing new here. It's just more of the same Disturbed. The cover on here is The Sound of Silence. They always do really cool covers. The Sound of Silence is no different. It's kind of cool. Not as good as the Genesis cover they did a couple of years ago, but still pretty solid. So, like I said, I wouldn't spend the 15 or 16 bucks for the deluxe edition like I did. If you find it for a good price, go ahead and grab it. Let's see. Oh, this one I just got a couple of days ago. This is one I was really excited about. I was actually about to order the... give me a second. I was about to order the vinyl. And then I was at my UCD store and happened to see this for $5, and I grabbed it. This is Skeletons from Danzig. I'm a huge Danzig fan. I have been since the first time I heard him. I want to say I heard him for the first time when Danzig 2 came out. Now, I had heard Misfits when I was younger and liked it, but I didn't know that was Danzig until years later. And if you've seen my punk videos, I love the Misfits. I show their stuff all the time. And actually, one of the cool things here is he's actually wearing skeleton paint. And he said that's the first time he's done that since the early 80s. So I really love the artwork on this album. And if you're not familiar with it, it's covers. It's some of his favorite stuff. And there's some really good stuff here and some stuff that's just okay. He covers Devil's Angels, Satan, Let Yourself Go, NIB, Lord of the Thighs, Action Woman, Rough Boy, With a Girl Like You, Find Somebody, and Crying in the Rain. As far as Danzig goes, he's pretty solid on here. He's got that really classic voice anyway, so when he does some of these classic songs, he really nails it. His voice is just as good as it's always been, you know. Where this kind of lacks is in the production. If I remember correctly, he did it all. I think I read he did everything himself on this, which is not abnormal for him. He recorded it in his home studio, and it sounds like he recorded it in a home studio. The mixing is not the best. His vocals are really up front, and the music's really in the back. And I think it takes away a little bit from the album. So overall, I like it. It's something that I'll still listen to. I am a Danzig fan. If I run across it on vinyl, I'm probably going to grab it. But if you're looking for something groundbreaking or something new from Danzig, this really isn't it. This is just Danzig being Danzig, you know. Next up, let's go with this one. This is Slayer Repentless, and there's been mixed reviews on this. This is the deluxe edition, so it's got the Live at Wacken 2014 DVD, or I'm sorry, I got the Blu-ray version. And then it's also got the Making of Repentless documentary. I haven't checked that out yet. I've given this 3 or 4 spins, though. And this one is the Inverted Cross. Deluxe edition. This is just all gimmicky kind of silliness for me, coming from Kerry King. He's gotten real gimmicky over the last couple of years with his covers and with his, he really goes for that. It's funny, they were accused of being satanic music back in the early days. They came out and said, we're absolutely not satanic music, you know, and then now they're really pushing for the last few albums, since God Hates Us All, you know, the anti-Christian imagery and that whole deal. And now they're doing, you know, exactly what they said they weren't. And if you think about it, God Hates Us All, you know, they had kind of fallen off for the last few albums before that. And they started trying these gimmicks to get themselves back up there. God Hates Us All, the music wasn't great, in my opinion. The follow-up in the last couple of CDs, I think, have been really good. So I didn't know what to expect from this one. Number one, obviously Jeff Hanneman had passed away. Kerry says Jeff Hanneman had no input in this album. I don't believe that personally. Dave Lombardo had left the band before this album. That's definitely noticeable. And who's the drummer now? Is it, what's his name? Paul Bostaph? I believe it's Paul. I could be mixing him up. I always mix up Paul Bostaph with one other guy. But I've never been a fan of his drumming. All of the albums with him on them are my least favorite albums. He's just not near as good as Dave Lombardo. I've seen him live a number of times with both bands, or with both drummers. He just can't do any of the drum rolls or the fills that Lombardo does. And even Lombardo struggles with some of them, like Seasons in the Abyss is such a crazy drum roll, and there's so many crazy fills in that as he's gotten older, he just can't hit all of the notes like he could in the studio back in 84 or 85, whenever they recorded that. But he still hits 99% when you see him live. And Bostaph, he just can't do it, you know. And the drumming, in my opinion, is definitely lacking in here. So is the songwriting. You know, Slayer have never been amazing songwriters, you know. But I've always liked the stuff that they wrote, you know. Even songs like Dead Skin Mask and stuff off of Seasons, I really liked. This just feels kind of lazy to me. And again, the gimmicky stuff, you know. You know, they decided, hey, you know, we'll do the Satanic Imagery again. Fine, whatever, you know. Then they decided to release it on September 11th, which they did on their last album too. So they got a lot of negative press for that, especially from guys like me who are veterans, who deployed, you know, right after September 11th. And, you know, the gimmicky stuff, and it's all Kerry King. I could do without all of that stuff, you know. But there are some good songs on it. Sorry about that, guys. My wife called me as I was doing the video, so it cut out there. As I was saying, though, there's a couple songs I like on here. As a whole, I will say this is probably their thrashiest album since Seasons in the Abyss. Definitely that sound is back, and I did like that. But as a whole, I just on a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 6 out of 10. Like I said, the two prior albums I think were much better. A lot of that probably had to do with Dave Lombardo. The drums, like I said, it really bothered me on here. I just don't think the drums were as good. But still, I mean, it's a solid metal album. It's a good Slayer album. It's definitely better than, say, you know, God Hates Us All and what was the one before that? The Diabolus and Musica. It's definitely better than those two in my opinion, but not as good as the last two. So next up is Condition Human from Queensryche. I didn't know what to expect of this one. I didn't hear their last album, you know. I didn't know what to think when Tate left the band, you know, and then they released, I think, 2 albums under the Queensryche name. I think he's gone on to change the name of his band. And I almost did I don't remember if it was Indiegogo or if it was Pledge Music, but they did a campaign, and I was going to do it. It was like $38 or $39 for a double LP signed by the entire band. And then for some reason I just decided not to. I wasn't sure what it was going to sound like, and while it would have been cool to have an autographed copy, if the album sucked, you know, I would have felt like I just wasted that money. So I actually got this maybe 3 days ago again at the UCD store for $5.99, and the first spin I was kind of so-so on it, but by like the third or fourth spin I was really getting into it. This is definitely back to their progressive metal sound as opposed to the more progressive rock route that they have been going at. They had been going with Tate, but I really dug it. And like I said, with each spin I like it a little bit more. Definitely harkens back to their earlier progressive metal sound, and it's just a really solid album. If you like metal, if you like progressive rock, if you like progressive metal, this is definitely going to be in your wheelhouse, and definitely worth picking up. And this is one that you know, if I see on vinyl, I'll definitely be adding to the collection. So, last but not least, again, I heard this and I absolutely did not like it. The main reason was the production. This is definitely a victim of the what do they call it? The volume wars or the loud war. I don't, you know what I'm talking about with CDs. The production is, you know, it's like they took all of the knobs on the EQ and just pushed them all the way up to the top. And on my stereo, which is on my stereo here, which is very sensitive to that, it doesn't sound good. And I have a really nice stereo back here, but then I played it in my car with the shitty stereo, and it sounded a little bit better. And I listened to it a number of times, and I really like it. Symphony X, I think their last few albums have kind of fell off for me. I kind of lost interest in them, and they've really redeemed themselves with this album. I really dig this one, and definitely worth picking up. The keyboards aren't overdone on here. The symphonic side of it is not overdone on here. This is just really good power metal with those symphonic elements. The guitars, amazing as always. Very much in that neoclassical vein where they've always kind of sat. But like I said, the symphonic sound is not overdone, which is an issue that I've had with some of their records in the past. And this is just a really solid record. If you like some of the earlier Symphony X albums, this will definitely be in your wheelhouse and definitely worth checking out. This is one I do want to hear on vinyl, because I want to, a lot of these that are victims of the crazy EQing, the vinyl ends up sounding a lot better. So this is one that I'll definitely be looking for on vinyl, and definitely be looking to add to that collection. But Underworld from Symphony X. So that's it, VC. I just wanted to go over a few that didn't make my my top list for one reason or another, and a couple of these could have. Queensryche could have been in there. Symphony X, and the Fear Factory are all albums that I really dug. They probably all deserved honorable mentions, at least an honorable mention. And there were a couple of other albums that and I've already forgotten about them right now, that I wanted to give honorable mentions to, that I remembered as soon as I finished doing that best of. There were a couple albums I was like, oh son, I can't believe I forgot those. But it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it now. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me your thoughts on these albums. I know the Slayer, that most of you have heard it, and I've heard mixed reviews. I know some of you love it, some of you hate it. I'm kind of in the middle. It's all right. It's nothing groundbreaking. Definitely the heaviest album they've put out in a number of years, or thrashiest album they've put out in a number of years. But like I said, I'm kind of in the middle on it. Take care, VC. I'll talk to you soon.